8:45, this is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by J. Yogaraj, read by Sounditavam. The President hints at VAT revision, promises to alleviate tax burden and increase benefits. The Premier emphasizes the importance of professionals of education sector, committing themselves to establish an educated and intelligent future generation. Sanath Nishanta's death is suspicious, wife tells the CID. Sri Lanka's official reserve assets increased by 2.3% in January. $480 million of income has been generated in 2023 by the Gem and Jewellery Authority. The Udarata Manike Express train service has been restored back to normal this evening. The stock market's daily turnover exceeds 11 billion rupees after single transaction. News overseas, Blinken Netanyahu discussed latest ceasefire deal. And in sports, Dasun Shanaka dropped and Shamika in ODI squad. President Ranil Wickremesinghe, delivering the government's policy statement in Parliament today, revealed that the government aims to alleviate the tax burden on the people as the economy continues to stabilize with the implementation of economic reforms. He said this will provide room for a potential revision of the value-added tax percentage, which has increased from 15% to 18%, with effect from the outset of 2024. Acknowledging that the VAT hike poses a burden for many people, the President said that the government is systematically addressing this issue. The head of state presented the government's policy statement to the House after ceremoniously declaring open the fifth session of the 9th Parliament today. The President said that there has been a substantial increase in tax registration, with the number of registered taxpayers soaring from 437,547 in 2022 to 1,029,029 by the end of 2023, recording an increase of 130%. As the tax network expands, the burden on individuals and organizations will diminish. He promised to take measures to increase the benefits provided to the people as the government's revenue increases. Speaking further on the economic reforms undertaken by the government to ride out the crisis, Wickremesinghe emphasized that the country is now experiencing tangible growth, which is evident in the current social discourse. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena emphasized the importance of professionals of the education sector, committing themselves to establish a well-educated and intelligent future generation. The Central Board of the Secondary Education Gulf Sahodaya of International School Principals in the Middle East and Western Asia was held today in Colombo. Speaking on this occasion, the Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena stated that in the past 3 decades, this organization of dedicated school principals had made great progress in fostering the quality of education so that the youth who can be entrusted with the responsibility of our society can attain their future aspirations. Education is a basic foundation for the progress and prosperity of any society. Leaders, innovators and visionaries of tomorrow are nurtured and shaped through our schools. They are the creators of this transformative process that leads to the knowledge, enlightenment and empowerment of our students. We are truly proud of Sri Lanka's contribution to education in many countries, including the Gulf region, Africa and Asia. Many of the leaders and representatives of these countries highly appreciate the work of Sri Lankan teachers in those countries. In the face of unprecedented challenges, they demonstrated the ability to adapt to the situation without wavering. When the COVID-19 epidemic became a challenge to our education systems, they managed to face it through new methods with skill and determination. From regular classrooms to distance learning models, they reached innovation in education. The wife of late State Minister Sanath Nishanta has filed a complaint with the Criminal Investigation Department, raising suspicions surrounding the lawmaker's death. Accordingly, the Attorney-at-Law Chamari Priyanka had claimed that certain factors pertaining to the State Minister's death remain suspicious and had thereby requested for an investigation into the incident. On the 25th of January, Sanath Nishanta's vehicle had crashed against the roadside barrier on the Katunaka Expressway after rear-ending a moving container truck at around 2 a.m., according to the police. Following the fatal collision, 3 injured persons, including the State Minister, were rushed to the Colombo North Teaching Hospital in Ragama, but the lawmaker and his security guard, identified as a police constable attached to his security detail, had later succumbed to their injuries. The driver was subsequently arrested on 26 January and, however, was later granted bail on 5th February. He had been released on a personal bail of 500,000 rupees on the orders of the Valisara Magistrates Court. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka says Sri Lanka's official reserve assets have recorded an increase of 2.3% in the month of January 2024. Accordingly, the official reserve assets have reached $4,491 million in January 2024 from $4,392 million in December 2023. This includes a swap facility for the People's Bank of China equivalent to around $1.4 billion, which is subject to conditionalities on usability, the CBSL added. The daily turnover of the Colombo Stock Exchange has crossed 11 billion rupees this morning. As per stock market figures, this is mainly due to a single transaction of 61.9 million shares in John Keel's Holdings plc. State Minister Chamara Sampath Dasanayake said 5,000 hectares of land owned by the Cement Corporation will be utilised in an effective manner to generate $300 million annually. The potential investors have been selected for this purpose. The State Minister insisted that under any circumstances the state-owned lands should be used to generate maximum income for the benefit of the country. The State Minister made these comments at a media briefing held at the Presidential Media Centre this morning. Addressing the media, State Minister further said the income generation process has been expedited under the leadership of President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Accordingly, $480 million of income has been generated in 2023 by the Gem and Jewellery Authority. That concludes local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
The Udarattamanike Express train operating from Badulla to Kandy and Colombo Fort has derailed near the Ulapane railway station, the Sri Lanka Railways said. As a result, the trains plying on the main line experienced delays according to the Railways Department. However, the Udarattamanike Express train service has been restored back to normal in the evening. The Railway Control Room said effective measures have been taken to continue with the normal operation of the Udarattamanike, which includes the night mail train service as well, and came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
The National Dengue Control Unit states that 10,021 dengue cases were reported in January. During this period, the highest number of dengue cases have been reported from the Jaffna district. The number of dengue deaths recorded during this period was 4. The National Dengue Control Unit said the highest number of dengue-infected people had been reported from the Western Province, and it is 32.7% as a percentage. So far, 60 dengue high-risk zones have been identified across the country. The National Dengue Control Unit requests that if anyone has fever for more than 48 hours, they should be referred to a qualified doctor, which came to you in Watchlight.
Coming up, World News.
Making headlines tonight, Blinken and Netanyahu discuss latest ceasefire deal. Japan's Prime Minister Kishida vows efforts to resolve territorial issue with Russia. And blasts in Pakistan on eve of elections leave at least 24 dead. The U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is in talks with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss a proposed ceasefire deal with Hamas. Blinken arrived in Israel on Wednesday as part of his Middle East tour. He is discussing with Netanyahu the latest ceasefire deal mediated by Qatar, Egypt and the U.S., as well as Hamas's response to it. The deal proposes a pause in fighting in exchange for hostages. Japanese Prime Minister Kishida Fumio says his government will continue making efforts to settle a territorial issue with Russia. Kishida spoke at a nationwide meeting in Tokyo on Wednesday. The event is held annually to mark Northern Territories Day and called for the return of the 4 islands. A Japan-Russia treaty signed on February 7, 1855, recognized that the island belongs to Japan. 2 deadly explosions have rocked Pakistan one day before the country's general election. The blasts hit near the candidates' offices in the country's southwest on Wednesday, killing at least 24 people. Authorities believe they are terrorist attacks meant to interfere with the vote. Both explosions happened in the southwestern province of Balochistan. One occurred near the office of a local assembly candidate, leaving 12 dead and 24 injured. Back to the headlines of the world news. Blinken and Netanyahu discuss latest ceasefire deal. Japanese Prime Minister Kishida vows efforts to resolve territorial issue with Russia. And blasts in Pakistan on eve of elections leave at least 24 dead. That concludes this bulletin of world news. And on to development news. Sri Lanka is planning on cutting industrial sector greenhouse gas emissions by 7% by 2030. Towards achieving this initiative, Sri Lanka has adopted a new monitoring system to map greenhouse gas emissions from industries. Quote, this is a major step towards the GHG emissions by 7%. By 2030, said the head of cooperation of the EU delegation, Dr. Johan H. Hase. The establishment of the new measurement, reporting and verification MRV system was facilitated by the EU-funded Accelerating Industry's Climate Response in Sri Lanka project, which aims to support the industrial sector to decarbonize and help Sri Lanka meet its commitment to combat global warming. The system also tracks the mitigation policies and measures in place for industrial processes and product use. Sri Lanka's industrial sector, accounting for 27% of the GDP in 2023, is a mainstay of the economy. That's development news. Sports news up next.
Moving on with sports news.
Former Sri Lanka white ball skipper Darshan Shanaka has been excluded from the 16-member squad, while bowling all-rounder Chamika Karunaratne has been once again recalled for the ODI squad for the Afghanistan 3-match ODI series, which will be held from February 9th at the Pallekele International Cricket Stadium. The second and third ODI will be played at the same venue on the 11th and 14th, and all the matches will be played under lights from 2:30 p.m. each day. The selected 16-member squad has already been sent to the Sports Ministry for approval. And that's sports news.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
In a historic achievement for HNB Assurance, the company has announced a record-breaking $203 million roundtable qualifiers during the year 2023. Amongst them were 20 sales officers who earned the status of court of the table, while another 5 achieved the highly top of the table status. That's business news, economic news to follow.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
On to economic news, the Sri Lankan tea sector has done a major rebound that is once again poised to be a major economic contributor to the country, said the chairman of the Sri Lanka Tea Board, Niraj Dimel. In an interview with the media, he said that the Sri Lankan tea industry for the period January to December 2023 showed an increase in production whilst recording a decrease in national average and exports when compared to the same period in 2022. Iraq, Turkey and Russia continued with strong demand for Sri Lankan tea and were the top 3 importers for the period January to December 2023. That's economic news.
Weather report.
The Met Department says that mainly fair weather will prevail over the island. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the central, Sabragamo and western provinces, also in Galle and Matara during the morning. This weather report was published this evening at 7:30 p.m. Further details could be obtained by visiting the official website of the department. To conclude this bulletin of news, a recap of the headlines. The President hints at VAT revision and promises to alleviate the tax burden and increase benefits. The Premier emphasizes the importance of professionals of education sector committing themselves to establish an educated and intelligent future generation. Sanat Nishanta's death is suspicious, the wife tells the CID. Sri Lanka's official reserve assets increased by 2.3% in January. $480 million of income has been generated in 2023 by the Gem and Jewellery Authority. The Udaratta-Manike Express train service has been restored back to normal this evening. The stock market's daily turnover exceeds 11 billion rupees after a single transaction. Blinken and Netanyahu discussed latest ceasefire deal, and Dasun Shanaka dropped and Shamika in ODI squad. On that note, we conclude tonight's news broadcast, and well, surprise, surprise, it's good to see Chandima behind the mic across the glass pane, sitting in. And, well, a very good evening to you, Chandima, and it's all yours to keep the listeners well entertained till the end of transmission.
Well, thank you very, very much, Vandi. That was Soundi Thawam bringing you the night bulletin of news. The time moves on to a minute down 9, and we are ready to commence the Family Choice program this evening. So call us on our hotline 269-4316.